Okay, so what I want to go through now is some very key points that you need to know when you go to the gym. It might be a good idea to write these down to remind yourself every time before you do your workout. First one, always log your weights. Something I got told at the very start of my body transformation journey when I had my own coach was, Mike, train to get strong and watch your body grow. And that was so true. It saved me years of wasted time. If you're always getting stronger, then you add a new muscle tissue. So it's very important that you log your weights and then you try and beat that number the next week. And if you keep beating those numbers, you add a new muscle tissue. It can take a while for visual changes to start seeing those changes take place. So if you know if you're getting stronger, you're on the right track. So always log your weights, every single set, how much weight you lifted, how many reps you did. Okay, so full range of motion. Full range of motion basically means taking a muscle from its fully lengthened position to its fully shortened position. So an example of this be, if we was doing chest press, so on the way down, when the bar's coming down and it touches your chest, that's now your pecs in its fully lengthened position. And then we're going back up to the top, that's now your pecs in the fully shortened position. So another example would be, if we was doing bicep curl, my elbow's locked out, your bicep now is in a fully lengthened position, the muscle, all the way to the top. So your forearm is touching your bicep, it's now in its fully shortened position. So always make sure whatever exercise you're doing, you're using full range of motion. Okay, tension. When you're doing a particular exercise and you're working that primary muscle, it's very important you keep the tension in the right place. It's really easy for that tension to come off the working muscle and start spreading over and using other muscle groups. So you've got to really focus and make sure you keep that tension on the working muscle. Okay, control. So you should always be in control of the weight. The weight should never control you. You know, an example, when you're following a tempo system, that's tempo is the speed of the exercise. If we do bench press, for example, so on the way down, a tempo for bench press would be 3 seconds on the way down, and that's called the eccentric. So 1, 2, 3, nice and controlled, nice and slow, touches your chest. And then the push up is called the concentric. That's 1 second, back up to the top. So you kept control throughout the whole movement. Another example for when you're doing lat pull down is the opposite way around. So when you're doing the concentric movement, it's when you pull it down. So that's 1 second. And then the eccentric is going back up, that's 3 seconds. So 1, 2, 3. So you should make sure you can control of the weight and not just letting it drop up or drop down. Make sure you keep that tension on there. No bouncing, no swinging. Okay, posture. So you should always have a solid posture and strong core control, especially when doing compound movements and all the other exercises. Not even just your posture in the gym when you're doing your workouts. Think about your posture outside of the gym. Your posture should be shoulders slightly pinched back, big chest, head looking forward. That's what your posture should be. Your spine should be neutral. So if I was doing a bent over row, for example, and I pivot and hip hinge from the hips, now, even though my back's gone at an angle, my spine is still neutral. So I kept a neutral spine. At no point when you're doing any exercises, you should have rounded shoulders, rounded back. You should make sure your posture stays tight. If you feel like something's come loose, you need to reset, then reset. That's exactly what I do during my sets. Okay, breathing. You can't hold your breath throughout the entire set. You settle in really quickly. Breathing really does depend on which exercise you're doing. But generally speaking, when you're doing chest press, for example, on the eccentric on the way down, that's when you should breathe in. Hold your breath. When you're close to the top, on the concentric, push it up. Breathe out. Another example, if we did squats, so before you go down and do squats, the eccentric on the way down, breathe in. Back up, breathe out. Breathing is very important. Failure. Everything you do, go to absolute failure. So once you've done your warm-up sets and you've practiced your form and technique, and then you're onto your working sets, and those warm-up sets you've added weight on and it's built up to the weight you're going to be lifting on your working sets. Once you're on those working sets, I want you to take each set to absolute failure. So push, so you get every single rep out. Really push yourself physically and mentally so you can't do any more reps. However, you only want to go to failure with good form and technique. The moment you see your form is starting to slip, that's your set done. And that's when you want to log your weights. Don't chase out bad reps. Okay, squeeze. I want you to squeeze every single muscle. You know, you can squeeze every single muscle in the body. So whatever exercise you're doing, if you're doing biceps, squeeze your biceps. If you're doing chest, squeeze your pecs. If you're doing back, squeeze your back. Squeeze your legs. The only different muscle that might be difficult to squeeze is kind of your delts, your shoulders. You know, if you're doing lateral raises, it's a difficult one to really squeeze. And if you're doing overhead press, again, that's a difficult one to squeeze. The harder you squeeze, the more muscle it's going to the more blood it's going to push into that muscle, and it's going to cause the muscle to expand and break down those muscle fibers, causing damage. And that's exactly what we want, because then that provides your body with an adaptive response to build new muscle fibers and new muscle. So squeeze really hard. Okay, recovery and rest. So how long should you rest between your sets? So if you're doing big compound movements like squats and bench press, I would say about 3 minutes is a good time to rest. If you go back too early and you only had a minute's rest, then you're going to be fatigued, and what's going to happen, your weight's going to drop off a lot, or your reps is going to drop off a lot. So make sure you take enough rest. And when it comes to smaller movements like isolation movements, biceps, triceps, 90 seconds. If you're getting back into training and you've been out training for a while, then your recovery and rest might take a while to build up and get it back to where it used to be. So you might need to take a bit more time initially when it comes to, take more than 3 minutes, take more than 90 seconds. But over time, have a stopwatch when you go into the gym or watch, and just try and bring those rest periods down. Okay, initiate with the working muscle. Okay, this is very, very important. So for example, if we was doing a cable seated row and we're going to train the lats, we need to make sure you're initiating with the lats. So you retract your shoulder blades and then you pull with your elbow all the way back until you're in the fully shortened position. So it's making sure you engage in your lats, initiate with your lats are engaged, then you start pulling back with your elbow. What you don't want to do is initiate with your bicep, then start to engage your lats. Because what's going to happen is you use about 15-25% of your biceps, and that means you're taking 15-25% away from the tension on your lats. So always make sure you're initiating with the working muscle. Another example, chest press. Once you've pinched your shoulder blades back nice and tight, you're initiating from the pec, because these shoulder blades stay back nice and tight. What you don't want to do is having loose shoulder blades and locked in, initiating from the shoulders and then the triceps. Okay, all these points are very, very important. I'm going to be doing further videos, talk about each one of them in more detail. In my last video, that's why I said it's really important for the first few weeks, just to get a feel for the program, a feel for the exercises, alter any things you need to do with your form and technique, and build that strong mind-muscle connection. Because all these points is laying that strong foundation so you then can go and build that ultimate physique.